Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Today we have an awesome episode for you. It is a Doing It at Home classic, an episode from August 2020, and really excited to share it with you. Before we jump in, just a reminder, all the ways you can connect with us. Make sure you're subscribed to the show, drop us a review, follow us on social media, check out our website, sign up for our email newsletter. I know there's a lot of things, but there's a lot of great ways to be connected, and you can do whichever one resonates with you or whichever one works for you, because some people don't do social media, some people don't do email, some people, I don't know. So you can have it all. That is Matthew's podcast, by the way. I didn't even intentionally do that. Matthew Bivens has a podcast. It's called Having It All. You should really check it out. Did not even mean to do that plug, but I'm here. So, here we are. We're doing it. All right. Enjoy the episode. We'll catch you next week. Love you all. Hey, I'm Sarah Bivens.
And I'm Matthew Bivens.
And this is the Doing It at Home podcast, the only podcast dedicated to empowering, loving, and honest conversations around home birth. What started as a fun way for us to document our own home birth journey has turned into a platform for sharing birth stories, resources, and education, with the goal of empowering mamas and families to make the birth decisions that work best for them.
Plus, we get into the antics, breakdowns, and breakthroughs of our own experience of marriage and parenthood.
All right. You ready, babe?
Yep. Let's do it, mama.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Happy birth story day. Yes. Serving up oxytocin, fresh and hot for you over here. Or is it hot and fresh? It's usually hot and fresh, isn't it? Anyway, welcome. We're so excited to have you here and to be in this space and be in this community. So don't forget, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button in whatever podcast player you are using right now. Let us know that you're listening, screenshot it, tag us on Instagram at DIAH podcast. Give us a shout and make sure you're following us there and all the other places you can do so, and jump into the conversation that's going on daily in our private Facebook group. Yes, the Doing It at Home birth group. So you can type that into the search bar there in Facebook, or there is a nifty link for you in the show notes of every single episode, or at least the recent ones, and our Instagram profile link as well. And I'm pretty sure there's a link to it from our Facebook page, the Doing It at Home page there. So plenty of ways for you to hop in and engage. We are having some really juicy, rich conversations in there recently, especially around home birth partners and having powerful conversations around that. We did that recently, and we also dropped the release of our home birth partner guide. Yes, there's a lot of words here. We put the link in there first. So that's a cool perk of being in the group, is you'll find out about things first when we create them or share them. We'll have exclusive offers and things like that in there for you. So go there and be a part of that. So you just request to join, fill out a couple of questions just so that you know that you are a real person and a fellow birth junkie, and then we'll pop you in there and we can talk and engage. We do lives, we post videos weekly, put things out there, as well as for ways for you to connect within the community more and use this as a resource for your experience and your process of home birth and beyond. So we're talking trying to conceive, we're talking pregnancy, we're talking birth and postpartum and beyond, your lifestyle, your relationship, yourself. Yeah, it's some awesome stuff. So hop on in there. See, words are challenging. Anyway. Okay, so all the ways you can connect, and I have to just mention too, because I've been seeing the posts on Instagram and they make us oh so happy, the Doing It at Home swag. Have babies where you make them is by and far our best seller, and I love that there are shirts and sweaters and hoodies out there in the world that say that. I just think about all the grocery store lines and all the conversations that can be sparked by wearing a shirt that says have babies where you make them. It is amazing, and it makes me so ridiculously happy. So if you want to get yours or gift one to a fellow home birth friend or birth junkie, you can do so. The link to our shop is everywhere I just said, the description, the show notes, our website, there's a link, and all of our social media. Okay, birth story time. question for you. What is intuitive birthing? That is a term that we use in this conversation with Katherine Ward, our guest today. And it's a great question. And I think the answer is going to be different for each of us, but that's what's beautiful. You get to own your process and have a unique experience in what intuitive birthing is for you. Katherine shares her home birth journey with us of her daughter, Remi. And it starts really when she was young and very much into birth and babies, and started her doula training at 18 years old, which is just so fantastic. And through that experience, she determined that when the time came for her, she was interested in a home birth. She wasn't really resonating with what she was witnessing in the hospital through her training. So by the time she met her husband, Connor, she knew she was having a home birth. And that sparks a really beautiful tangent in the episode that I won't share too much about, but it's really great. And it's around how yet to be moms can have powerful, loving conversations with their partners around birth, and to normalize that as a topic you can dive into before you're even having kids. So we do that. And then Katherine also shares some of the real challenges she experienced in her whole journey from being pregnant and Connor traveling a lot during that process. So how to stay connected and communicate in communication. And she's real with it. And I just so appreciate that. And she shares some of her postpartum challenges as well. And of course, we have all the details on birthing time that you're just going to love and soak up. Like we said, it's oxytocin time, baby. So quick word from our sponsor, and then we will hear from Katherine. Hi, Katherine. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you so much for coming. Happy Monday. We're so excited that you carve out some time to hang out with us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Really excited. We've already been having so much fun. So this is a continuation of a flow we've already created. So we're rocking and rolling here. Katherine, why don't you fill listeners in and share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name is Katherine. I am married to my husband, Connor. We're coming up on 2 years of being married this fall. We live in central Iowa area, kind of near Des Moines, and we're actually moving to Des Moines this week, buying a house for our first time. And we were in our early 20s. We had a baby back in December, so she's little Remi is almost 8 months old. Yeah, she's a sweetie. We love her. I am actually a birth doula. I trained as a doula when I was 18 years old, and have done a handful of births here and there throughout the last few years. I'm also finishing up massage therapy training right now. I was supposed to graduate in January, but then had a baby a few weeks before. So
Yeah.
you know how that goes. So I'll be finishing that. I just took my boards a couple weeks ago and passed. So I just have to wrap up some clinic hours, and my focus is prenatal and postpartum work. So excited to take care of mamas in my practice here soon, probably by the end of the year. So.
That is awesome. So anyone in the surrounding Des Moines area, you want to know Katherine.
Oh, yes.
That is so cool. Yeah, you are definitely someone I want on my team if you lived close by.
Absolutely. I was checking out your Instagram.
That's the goal. Mm-hmm.
And you just have some really great resources on there. Just information about what a doula is and what doulas do. And I was saving certain posts like, oh, Sarah, we should
saved the ones I saved, by the way, because we're the same person. I watched you as you were saving them. I'm like, I've already saved those.
Oh, that's cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm still getting things up and running. So I appreciate you following me.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Will you go ahead and shout out your social media real quick for those folks who can look at it right now?
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram. I actually just made it not too long ago, so I have to remind myself of what my username is. I think it is Genesis, like the first book of the Bible, or Genesis birth massage. That's my handle on Instagram. And then you can also find me on Facebook, Genesis Birth and Massage.
Great.
So
Awesome.
Yeah.
And we're going to link to everything in the description. So wherever,
perfect.
whatever app you're listening to this on right now, look in the show notes and you'll see links as well. So awesome.
Awesome.
So we have a couple of really neat details, I think, about your story in particular, Katherine. You already mentioned started doing doula work at 18. So that's, from my perspective, at least, to others it might not be, but that's young to be in birth world and in work, serving others in a birth capacity, which I think is amazing. And so I believe that's a unique aspect to your story, being young and engrossed in the birth world, you yourself training to be a doula, focusing on prenatal, postpartum care, and then experiencing a birth yourself. So that first time mom and a birth story. So this is some really cool things. And I think a lot of those, boxes being checked could apply to a lot of listeners right now. And especially for the non-mom group of our community who I love and am just always inspired by, the women who are exploring their options and interested before conceiving, before even talking about conceiving. So I think this will hit really powerfully in that sector of the community as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So share a little bit of background, I guess before your own birth journey, there's your entrance into doula work. What had you interested in that and what brought you into that space?
So from the time I was like a little girl, I've always been fascinated with pregnancy and birth. I used to draw pictures when I was little, and I just draw like pregnant moms or moms holding babies. And I always used to make believe being pregnant and everything. So it was always something I was interested in. I told my mom when I was little I wanted to have 12 babies and be an obstetrician.
Oh my gosh.
The vision.
Yeah.
Yeah, that has changed. But I was kind of feeling conflicted as I was nearing the end of high school as to what I wanted to do with my life. And, a friend of mine suggested becoming a midwife. And I was like, oh, what the? I didn't even know midwives existed.
Yeah.
It sounded kind of crazy. And so I researched a little and I was like, oh, that sounds really cool. I really like their philosophy on birth and care and everything. So I thought I'd get my feet wet by training as a doula first and see, if birth is even something I can handle in person and everything. So I did that right after I graduated high school. I trained at a local hospital to become a doula and did quite a few births right after my training. And I loved it. It was just like set me on fire. It was so great.
Why? What about it? I'm just curious. What about it did that for you?
Well, I think it was just like the energy and the, I liked being able to just focus on taking care of somebody in this vulnerable, transformative time.
Yeah.
There was just nothing like it. Honestly, it's one of the coolest things I've ever done. Being in a birth, there's nothing like it.
That's awesome.
So
thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, it was great. I really appreciated those women who trusted me as such a young person, to be in their space as they gave birth and everything. So that was really awesome. It was a great experience, and ultimately, I watched all kinds of birth in the hospital, and I kind of some practices didn't sit right with me. So that's why I decided to look into home birth for myself. And I hadn't actually been to a home birth in my doula role until my own. So I'd only watched videos of it. I just really wanted a different experience than what I saw in the hospital for myself and my own birth. So I was kind of set on it from the time I trained as a doula after seeing some things. So, even before I met my husband or anything, I was set on home birth.
Very cool.
That's awesome. What do you remember most about the very first birth that you attended?
Wow, that's a really great question. I was surprised at how chill it was for the majority of the time I was there. It was an induction, so she wanted me there right when things started, and so I was only there for about 8 hours. It was pretty short, but it was just I was like, wow, we're just kind of talking and chilling, and we're hanging out for most of this, and it was only maybe the last couple hours that I actually had to be involved in like doing stuff and helping the mom out, because otherwise I was just really kind of blown away at how chill birth was until the end when things get a little intense. So but it was just watching a baby come out and then all of a sudden, like you're a mom. It was crazy. I cried. So yeah, it was mind blowing, but I'd probably just say like, yeah, just how chill it is. It's not like the movies at all.
Right.
Yeah. That was definitely one of the big things that I experienced and remember was when we watched those first home birth videos.
Yeah.
Or just even the documentaries that we watched. I was like, whoa, this is nothing like, the movie Knocked Up or anything that you see on TV. It's so different.
Yes.
So different.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious,
Really,
Katherine,
it is. Yeah.
What is the birthing community like in your area and surrounding? If you kind of could give a little synopsis on that, or just based on your experience.
Yeah. So we have some good hospitals here in Des Moines. And there's one in particular that had midwives who were home birth midwives that are now practicing in the hospital, and that's a really, really great place to deliver from what I've seen. But we've got a couple hospitals that are, they're kind of like baby factories, just a lot of in and out, moving along.
That's an interesting way to put it.
And yeah, it's just kind of moving along like cattle,
Sure.
It feels like. And just, it's kind of a crapshoot who you're going to get provider wise. It's, there's some really great providers and nurses and everything, but then there's also, the other side of things.
Yeah.
So it's just really a toss up as to who you're going to get when you go into labor. But as far as home birth, we have, as far as I know, we only have like 3 options in the central Iowa area. And there's so many women who would like to birth at home, but they're full. I mean, they're trying their best to keep up, but we need more midwives here to keep up with the home birth demand for sure. So we only have one birth center, and that would be one of the 3 home birth options because that particular group of midwives, they have they do home birth as well. So
wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
you only have one
pretty
birth center
limited.
here.
True. Yes. I would say if this time in the world is showing us anything, it's that we need more teachers and midwives. Just saying.
More
Absolutely.
teachers. Yes.
So maybe we should invest some time and energy and money in those.
Put some of that stimulus money towards
That's another
training some midwives.
conversation.
Yep.
Okay. So back on track here, Katherine. That's our bad. That's our fault. Okay, so you were clear on home birth for yourself, and then what did it look like when that was more of a reality for you and Connor's in the picture and you're having those conversations? What did that look like?
Yeah, what was his response?
Well, when we first met, I think it was not something he had ever even heard of before. And I talked to him because I was attending births when we first met and everything. And he was just kind of like, okay, that's interesting. And I told him about, I slowly I didn't try to, baptize him by fire and like throw it all at him at once. I just slowly was like, hey, did you know that, here's the great benefit of giving birth at home? Or, and I'd be like, I think I'd like to have my babies at home, just kind of throwing it out there here and there. And he'd be like, okay, he's pretty good with the flow about a lot of things, which is came in handy during labor and everything. But he was pretty chill about it. I think he just knew that like I was going to make I wasn't going to make a decision willy nilly on, when it came to my health and our baby's health. So I think he trusted my judgment on that, but I did show him a lot of research, and just some different resources about why I wanted to make this decision. And he really, there wasn't much resistance there. I think he understood, but he did arrive at the decision of his own accord, that, this is a good decision for us. I want this for you and for our family. So it wasn't too hard to convince him. I'm really blessed with him.
That's great.
That's wonderful.
So,
love hearing that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm feeling another episode topic or conversation to have in our Facebook group around. And I just want like a 2-second rant here. And it has to do again with yet to be moms, not yet moms. And this conversation of bringing up child planning or having babies and birth with a partner, and yet you are not yet trying to conceive or you're not yet pregnant, because I think there's a stigma around that, that if a woman, especially if you're dating, it's for some reason kind of frowned upon to drop the conversation of birth or babies, over a bowl of spaghetti in a restaurant. Like that's,
Putting
jumping too
pressure
far
or-
ahead. Yeah. Or
Yeah.
putting pressure on the guy, like, oh, God forbid. And so I think there's some rescripting we can do around that. And I think it comes with how we normalize birth very early on for all of us, men and women, to then as we're older, that could be this kind of natural conversation. Because here's the reality. If you as a woman are going to be a birthing human, it's totally, I feel like, within your right and reason to have conversations like that this is something that you're going to experience. And so how can we create a non-pressurized, stage 5 clinger, potential girlfriend thing of just having a natural conversation about that and saying, like, sharing that that's where you're at and that's something you would like to experience and it just being something cool. So I think that's more conversations I would actually like to have for the not yet moms and how they can feel empowered to bring that up in a completely normal way. And it not be a thing.
Yeah, no, I totally get that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Connor was always like, you're the one who has to do it. So I'm happy to accommodate, but I think it was easier for us to have those conversations early on because we knew pretty early on that we were going to end up together.
Yeah.
And that we'd be having babies together. So, I'm not sure how to navigate that in other relationships, but for us, it was pretty easy.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. And
absolutely.
I think that's just a conversation a lot could benefit from, not saying put on your dating profile, like must have a home birth, must be open to that, or I will not meet you for coffee. But there can be a in between. There can be a balance of that.
You talk about things with potential partners.
Sure.
So you might talk about, do you like to live in the cities? Do you like to live by the beach? You know what I mean? Like you get to know each other's preferences for things. And so I'm totally with you there, babe, of normalizing a conversation around birth. And, even with that, like when you and I were starting those conversations, I do remember getting to a point where it felt pressure.
Yeah.
Because of the way I was relating to it, and this actually happened with the engagement as well. Before we even talked about baby, it was like, in my mind, once it was clear that we were moving in that direction, I tended to relate to any additional conversation as pressure for us to do it sooner rather than later. And I think that is something that that men and partners can be aware of and can work on, right? So that it doesn't have to feel like pressure just to have a conversation about something like future kid planning or future relationship planning. So there's some juice in there for all of us to think about.
Thank you for this, Catherine. You have sparked a lot of awesome.
Yes,
we might have to bring
Catherine.
you back on for those conversations to riff off of.
Yeah, and I don't mean to put you on the spot. I don't mean to put you on the spot right now, Catherine, but I am curious, as a doula, somebody who does work with mothers and potentially with couples, like what advice would you have for the couple or the mom or the soon to be mom who wants to approach this topic with their partner, but might feel a little bit of nerves around doing it because they don't want to, again, make somebody feel uncomfortable? Yeah. What advice do you have?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. It's so hard. I've seen so many women who desire home birth or desire a particular way of doing things, and then they face the pushback from their partner or whatever. But I think really the way I went about it myself was just, I honestly was just, I asserted the boundary. I'm like, I'm going to do this. I want this. I asserted it early on, and I said, this is why I'm going to back it up. I'm going to make this to you, but this is this was it ultimately, not to sound dark or anything, but it's my body and my future births that are at stake here. Choosing birth, it's because I'm going to feel safest. If you can't honor that, then I you ultimately. So it's if you're 10 years into a relationship or whatever, and then you have to start having these conversations, but long before a baby's in the picture is probably your best bet. Because they'll come around. Eventually, most of them are going to come around if you show them the research. I mean, if they're going to be open, they need to be open to hearing your reasons and everything, but also respecting that this is really ultimately your choice. It's not an unsafe choice or anything. It's what's going to make you feel safest and most empowered in your birth. So just jump on those conversations early, I think, would be my advice.
I agree.
That's awesome. And your phone broke up a little bit throughout that, but the gist that I got is what you just said at the end. Like, have those conversations early, set that, put it out there earlier in the relationship and kind of, hold your ground, so to speak, and then invite more conversations. That's kind of what I took away from what you were saying.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Beautiful. Let's take a quick break. And when we come back, let's talk birth time. All right, Katherine, tell us about birthing time.
Yeah. So full disclosure, my husband and I practiced NFP, natural family planning.
Cool.
So we were we had an idea that I might get pregnant. We weren't trying, but we weren't not trying. And I kind of was taking pregnancy tests if my cycle was more than a day or two late here. Just, for about 6 months or so, I was doing that. And then they never came up positive until this one day. I had taken a test that on didn't think anything of it, went to shower. And then I came back out and finally saw the 2 lines and was kind of like, oh, that's different.
Wow. So were you asymptomatic?
Yeah.
Wow.
A lot of my PMS symptoms were the same as what
They're
I was
exactly
feeling,
the same
in early pregnancy.
I know.
Oh my gosh. So I thought I was pregnant probably 5 different times before I actually was pregnant. But
sure.
I thought I was going to tell my husband in a cute way, but I just ran downstairs in my towel and was like, are there 2 lines here? Are you telling me, like, am I crazy? So yeah, we were a little shocked, but also kind of like, well, this is what you get when you do these things. So we were happy, of course. I was also a little overwhelmed. I had just started school for massage therapy, so it was a little the timing was a little iffy, but it all turned out fine. I had a pretty decent pregnancy. I did have to have some progesterone support in the beginning because it was on the low side, and I had to get some shots in my hips to get those numbers up, and that was a little rough there because we were thinking potentially I was going to have a miscarriage, but things came up, and I got to stop the shots after a couple months, and had a pretty good first and second trimester, a little sickness here and there. And then, I think I gained quite a bit of weight and was quite uncomfortable towards the end. But I was spending my pregnancy in school and getting body work almost every day, which was kind of awesome. And my classmates were all super supportive and everything. So that really helped me get through my pregnancy. We hired a doula who was a friend of mine previously. So we hired her pretty early on in our pregnancy. She had a home birth herself. And so I felt confident in her ability to support us in that setting. I was a little apprehensive going into the home birth because I'd never actually been to one. I'd only ever done hospital birth as a doula. So it was a little bit of uncharted territory for me. So I was watching all kinds of birth videos, of home births, and just reading all the things. And we took a Bradley method class that I signed us up mainly to give Connor some tools to support me during labor, because I wanted him to be my primary doula. And so, and he was traveling for work throughout most of my pregnancy too. So he'd be gone like Monday through Friday, out of town. And so it was kind of hard emotionally to prepare, to feel like I was preparing for this birth alone.
Yeah.
For a good portion of the pregnancy. So, it was tough emotionally, I'd say. And at the end, it was definitely kind of a tough thing, waddling around everywhere and trying to massage people while you have a big belly and everything. So
how did you guys,
it was tough.
So how did you guys talk about that and work through that together?
I won't say we communicated super well. We probably could have done a better job. We were both, stressing about that, and I had just left a job to start school, and the finances were a little rocky there. So we just really had to make use of the weekend time together and try to call each other every day, and really, we had to try to communicate as best we could, long distance like that. He'd try to spend time with me, rubbing my belly. I showed him some massage techniques for pregnant bellies. And so we'd kind of do that before bed when he was home on the weekends. And I'd let him, just take some really good smelling lotion and rub my belly. And we talked to baby and stuff. And so we tried to just have these good, bonding moments before he'd have to leave again. And I told him to set the boundary with his employer that he'd be home for 36 weeks on, because it's like it was getting cold, here it was November around that time, and I was like, I can't be waddling in and out and and shoveling a driveway, all that good stuff. So I was like, I just need you here after that point. I can deal with this up until a certain point, but we gotta, we're both gonna need to hunker down and prepare. So that was really helpful, setting that boundary. So
Oh, that's awesome. That's cool. And I appreciate you just being honest and real with it. Like it wasn't that easy all the time, because I think that gives everybody else almost a sigh of relief when they're experiencing some sort of ups and downs, whether it's communication or being on the same page or whatever it is. It's like that happens.
Yeah. It's not just butterflies and rainbows the whole time, and we're not running through meadows together holding hands.
No, we had moments throughout the pregnancy, but I will say it was very hard on us with the traveling and everything. And we always think about what the woman's going through, the mother's going through with this baby in her belly, and like all the physical stuff and emotional stuff goes, but the partner's going through a lot too.
Yeah.
Huge adjustment. I jokingly referred to the baby as the impending doom. It was a joke.
Yeah.
but
we love you, Remi.
There's a sense of almost impending. Yeah. Impending is coming, and you feel like a bomb, and it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard on the moms.
Yeah.
Was trying to be strong for me, but he's got his own stuff he's dealing with. It was hard thinking about that.
I get it.
So as we got towards the end of pregnancy, let me a bit. My wife was excellent. I contacted her right when we found out I was pregnant, and
great.
She'd been, she had been the midwife for a few of my friends' births, and I just heard great things. And she normally doesn't take on first-time moms, but I had name dropped the right people, so she decided to take me on.
Yes.
And I know, I was like, oh, thank goodness. And she was just great. I don't know, she is an angel. Her name's Lacey. Her business is Central Iowa Midwife. She is my go-to when I recommend a midwife for even just well woman care. She loves her job. She's a mom herself, and she's just like a ray of sunshine. You walk in and she makes you, even though you're big and pregnant and uncomfortable, she makes you feel like, beautiful and everything. And she talks to your baby when she's, checking heartbeat and everything. She's just wonderful. So I really looked forward to my appointments with her. They're just in her living room, and she was just wonderful. She made me feel affirmed in my decision to do this. She made me feel confident that I could do this, and it was just wonderful. So she did a home visit about 36 weeks. Connor got to be there for that and got to hear baby's heartbeat and everything. So that was really good. And we had set up a friend's indoor hot tub for a birth tub.
Very nice.
And that was set up. Yeah, it was heating our whole house, which is awesome. We have a little townhouse, so it was kind of acting as just a heater and everything.
That's amazing.
Humid because of this giant hot tub.
Yeah, so you had nice pores and some warmth.
Yes, we actually a hot tub, watch TV, kind of warm up after the cold days. It was great. And our living room is so tiny, so you have to like shuffle around this big tub to sit on the couch, and it was hilarious. But we were starting to prepare. We hung up some birth affirmations on the wall and put up some curtains and stuff so it'd be dark. And I was doing birthing from within exercises for like birth art. I don't know if you're familiar with any of that.
I haven't heard of that.
They give you these prompts. It's really cool. So it's a book, I think it's England or something like that. Birthing from Within is what it's called. And I did these prompts where they say, draw yourself, how you see or something like that. And you just, you make art, you can do a sculpture, a drawing or whatever. And it kind of helps you process a little, just stuff going on inside, for birth. And, one of them was to draw, your vision for yourself and I drew a picture of myself in this hot tub with Connor holding my hand and, affirmations on the wall, and it kind of helps you visualize it. And it actually did end up looking exactly like the picture I drew, which was really cool.
Wow.
So yeah, anyway, so I was doing a lot of internal preparation and everything. But when the time came, Connor had been hunting the day before out on my parents' acreage, and I was kind of just alone at home, and I just felt off. And I was laying down, I had a headache. I just didn't want to do anything, didn't want to go anywhere. Was kind of emotionally not in a good place. And then we went to sleep. This was a Sunday night. 3:30 in the morning, I woke up and I felt what felt like the Braxton Hicks I'd been feeling. And but there was like almost like a period cramp sensation with each one. So I got up and I made myself some toast, and then I tried to go back to sleep. But I was using a contraction timer app, and it was telling me to go to the hospital right away. Because I woke up and they were like, 3 minutes apart, lasting for a minute. But they didn't feel super hard. I was kind of like, I'm not going to call anybody. This doesn't feel like, this isn't it. This can't be it. This is too easy,
Yeah. I just think it's funny to have an app said, go to the hospital. It'd be cool to have a different version of that. Or if you chose when you set up your profile, you have a home birth. So it's like, stay home.
Call your midwife. Or,
don't go anywhere.
Put on Netflix.
Exactly. Yep. I needed that, but I was just kind of like, what? Like, I would, if I were having a hospital birth, I would not be going to the hospital with what I'm feeling right now. So yeah, I was like, whatever. So tried to go back to sleep. But I just felt like a little bit of like, this feels different, So I told Connor about, 5:30 in the morning. I was like, hey, I think you probably need to call into work. But I'll let you know in about an hour or so. And he's like, okay. And he went back to sleep, and we're just kind of laying there. And then the time that he'd need to be leaving for work rolled around, and I was like, hey, you need to call into work. These are just getting closer together and longer. And so we called the midwife, and she's like, yeah, it sounds like labor. Well, just keep me updated, and I'll be to you guys probably in a few hours. And so I took a shower. I had lost my mucus plug at that point and saw some bloody show. So then I was like, oh yeah, okay, this is probably going to happen. But I was, we were in really good spirits. We were excited. We were jumping around, getting stuff ready. And we called the doula. She probably came over around 8:30 or 9. I was eating some chicken nuggets. I really enjoyed the dinosaur chicken nuggets when I was pregnant, for some reason. So I was eating some of those and bounced on my birth ball, watching some Netflix. It was really chill. I liked having the doula there because she was just, another person to talk to and keep me distracted, I guess. because it wasn't, I was having to work through contractions by the time she got there, but I was still, it really wasn't that bad. And then after a certain point, the doula was kind of like, hey, you should maybe get in the pool. Like you look like you could use the relief of the water and everything. So let's go downstairs and get you in there. And I was like, all right, but I wanted to save that for the very last possible minute. So, it'd be my little relief towards the end. But she really recommended I got in. So I did. And we called the midwife and told her, you really should get here. It had started snowing actually. And the midwife was on her way, and there was a big up on the interstate, like 2 cars behind her. She watched the accident happen in her mirror and everything. So we're really thankful that we called her when we did, because it otherwise would have been kind of she might have missed a birth, to be honest. I at this point I'm really working hard to breathe through my contractions and everything. I told Connor to call waves and rushes, but I was laughing because I'm like, this does not feel like a wave. This is intense. I was really proud of myself for how well I was staying composed throughout all this. And I had mentally prepared for a 24-hour labor or something crazy, because they tell first-time moms, expect long labor. It's going to be hard. It's going to be bad, basically. So I was prepared for the worst, but things were happening really fast. And, my midwife got there at about 11:30. She was really calm and quiet. Just occasionally stuck her hand in the water and checked the baby's heart rate with the Doppler. And she just sat on the couch and just occasionally would be like, hey, Katherine, you're going to be feeling this, or you want to try this position. She was almost like a doula in and of herself. But everyone was just kind of sitting there and holding space for me while I did this. And I liked having the barrier of the pool, because I'm kind of a private person.
Nice.
When it comes to my body and everything, it was nice to have that. Like, everyone else is outside the pool and I'm in the pool. So that was nice. And the nurse assistant for the midwife arrived shortly before the baby came. I got about the last 25 minutes of labor, my body just started pushing for me. I never actively pushed the baby. So I experienced the fetal ejection reflex. And my midwife said I only pushed for about 25 minutes. And her head and body and everything came out in 2 pushes. It was it was like? Wild. It was that reflex, oh my gosh, it was I can't even describe it. I mean, honestly, she shot out like a rocket, and it was, the midwife had to catch her across the pool for me. It was wild.
Wow. Little torpedo.
So yeah, exactly. That's what it was. And I'm kind of glad it happened that way, because I was really not enjoying that, the ring of fire. I hate to say that because I don't want to, scare anybody, but that was the worst part for me. The contractions, I could do all. The ring of fire was not my fave.
I gotcha. I don't think anyone would fault you for not subscribing to that monthly.
No, that was and so that's why I was resisting pushing, is because
you knew
that did not feel the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so I'm kind of glad that the pushing went so fast. Like I said, I never actually pushed intentionally. My body just did it for me. It was mind blowing. My water broke probably 10 minutes before she was born too. So it happened in the pool, and very interesting sensation to have that pop.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really good. I enjoyed having the bodily autonomy thing. No one was really touching me unless I asked for it. And, I never had any cervical checks or anything. Everyone just stood by and let me do it. My midwife was there keeping an eye out for anything that could potentially happen, but she believes in it, intuitive birthing and letting things just happen. So it was really good. And I did a little scary moment after she was born. I did have quite a big rush of blood in the pool, and it's hard to tell how much blood is coming out out
Yeah.
in the water because it all just kind of, it mixes together. And so they had me get out and get on the couch so they could monitor it a little bit better. And everything was fine. It just was a really big gush, and they wanted to watch it. And I did have a 2nd-degree tear. So that was, I had to be stitched up a little bit. But at that point I had my baby, so I didn't really care. And the healing from that was all right. I did end up having to have some granite tissue clipped a couple months later. That's just something that can happen when you get stitched up.
Girl, me too.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad someone else has experienced.
So mine
no one talks about it.
Mine
but it was
chemically cauterized off.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
Oh.
Was it causing you pain? Because mine was causing me pain.
It was just incredibly uncomfortable. And I didn't really, it's my first time going through this, I didn't know if that was normal. And it just was like this kind of extra skin that, of course, any sort of rubbing or walking or wearing underwear or pants, I was like, this is not comfortable. So when I got it checked out by my midwife, she said, yeah, you're going to want to get that taken care of. So,
Yeah, I had the same experience. Mine was actually bleeding a lot too. So I thought I was, it was like 3 months after she was born that I was still dealing with this. And I'm like, this doesn't seem right. Like I should be feeling better by now.
Yeah. Same.
So a lot of women don't know that as a thing or don't go get it checked out. So I hope someone hears this that needs to hear it. If you're experiencing that, you really should go have someone take a look at it. But once I had that taken care of, I felt like totally fine. Honestly, like I was terrified of tearing, but it wasn't that bad. And I'm my body obviously just needed to do that to get my baby out, and that it's all right. Like I'm good. So it was a really, really good birthing experience. And, my husband was the best doula ever.
Aw, go Connor.
Get it.
Yeah, he was great.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Wow. And then what was,
really cool.
That I think there are different names for it, the golden hour or whatever, within that hour as you're settling in and the oxytocin is in the air. What was the scene like after Remi's arrival?
Gosh, it was, it was one of my favorite days ever, to be honest. It was just, everyone was so like smiley and happy and excited. And like we had called my mom. I told her I wanted to come, have her come take some pictures during my labor, but it happened so fast that, we called her an hour before the baby came, and she lives about an hour away, and we thought she'd have plenty of time to get here, but she came in about 5 minutes after the baby came. So, she just missed it. But just having my mom there and Connor and, my midwife, Lacey, we're excited and we're smiling and laughing and we're just examining this little human being. And I was just like, the first things I said after Remi came out was, "Oh my gosh, you are real." Because so I couldn't fathom that, like, who is this person inside of me? And then, oh my gosh, now you're here, you are indeed a real person. And we're just looking at her little ears, at her little fingers. And it was such a happy time, honestly. Like the first week or so was just a good, like, lovely experience. It started to go a little bit downhill when Connor went back to work, and, people start to, the new baby thing kind of wears off and you are all by yourself. But the first couple of days, and especially right after, it was wonderful. It was, I look back at those videos and everything, and I watch them if I need to pick me up, because that was wonderful.
That sounds wonderful.
That is, yeah. That's so
yeah.
Great. I totally get what you're saying too. It's like a couple weeks in, and I think especially those who have never experienced it, or maybe they experienced it years ago, meaning your friends or your tribe, your village, oh, they're cool. Like they're a few weeks in, they've got this. I could totally see how that would happen. Yeah. And then you're out there, and even beyond newborn phase. I mean, mine is almost 4, and sometimes I'm like, "Where's my meal train this week?
Yeah,
where's my friend coming over to do my laundry?"
Yeah,
I still need it
now.
Yeah, it doesn't end.
Yes. Oh my gosh, seriously. And then to be frank with people, I had postpartum depression and anxiety that I'm honestly still dealing with. And it was winter time, so I couldn't get out and go places. I was still dealing with pain afterwards, and I had bad hemorrhoids too. So just sitting in the car or anything like that was not something I wanted to do. So I was just home alone for so much of my postpartum. And my mom came up to help, but she's got a job that she's got to work, and so she did the best she could. But I really appreciate the help I did get, but I still feel like I was so isolated, and we had some low milk supply issues in the beginning. So I was having to, nurse my baby and then pump right afterwards, and, give her some of my pumped milk to make sure she was putting on the weight that she needed to put on, and just washing bottles when you feel like you can barely stand up and all this stuff. It was a hard time. So it's just, I feel like I was prepared and had organized some good help, but I totally underestimated how much help I would have needed. So it was a time, but and then the pandemic started. So that was the whole thing. And then I really couldn't go anywhere. So I just had to kind of rely on your little circle and try to reach out so you don't feel completely isolated. But yeah, it's a hard thing.
Yeah.
But I had a good experience, and it was still hard.
And so it can be a great experience, and acknowledging everything that you did. And I really appreciate you doing that. And I just, beyond how it's already showing up in how you mother Remi, I just think about the potential impact for you in the birth world and the women and families that you will continue to serve as a doula. And then in your, healing arts of massage, I think that's going to, it already is loading you up so well with insight and compassion and, space holding for all of that because of what you've experienced.
Thank you. Yeah, that's my goal. I really think that the postpartum period, and even in pregnancy, it's such an underserved, time. Women really need more support than, yes, we know women are strong, but you shouldn't have to do all this by yourself. We don't have the village that we used to have. You have to really reach out and get that organized. Otherwise you're going to have to you don't want to just be treading water. You want to try to enjoy this experience best you can. But, it's such an underserved time. So I'm really glad to, have been through it myself so I can help my clients and other women, get through this time and enjoy it, see some light through all this.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I appreciate you saying that, because I think it gives all of us an opportunity to look at how we support new parents.
Yeah.
And you have that really great post on your Instagram about, things to say or how to offer help and support instead of asking a new mom, let me know if you need anything, which a lot of
need
people
1,000 things. Do you have a paper and pen?
A lot of people would say, no,
or
I'm fine,
yeah.
right? Or whatever.
Yep, nothing.
The post that you shared says, hey, I'm going to the grocery store. Send me your list so I can get you some things.
Yeah.
Or, hey, I want to bring you a dinner. What dinner can I bring you? So you sort of take some of that feeling of whatever it is, if it's guilt, if it's I can do it myself, it's I don't deserve the help, whatever it is, you kind of take that off the table by the way you offer your help and by the way you ask those questions. And I know for myself, I've got some friends right now who just had a little one, and I definitely have been putting out the generic, let me know if there's any way I can help.
Yeah.
And so just in your sharing in this conversation, it makes me think, okay, let me offer a different type of help. Hey, I want to Instacart you some food. What can I send you? So I appreciate you bringing that up, because it gives all of us an opportunity to see how can we provide the help and support that we ourselves would like to receive.
Oh, for sure. And I don't practice what I preach on that sometimes. I'm not good at asking for help. So I think that made my postpartum time even harder was, I didn't want to say I need someone to do my dishes, that was really hard for me. It's hard for a lot of people, especially when you feel like, I'm this confident woman and I, just birthed my baby. I should be able to do this,
Yeah.
But, it's hard.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, awesome. Katherine, you're amazing. I appreciate you so much. This has been an amazing conversation, really packed with a lot of great themes and topics and the ebb and flow. I feel like we really demonstrated that today in terms of the totality of the experience of pregnancy and birth and even postpartum. I love that we touched on that as well. So again, for those of you listening and you want to connect with Katherine, or you're in the Des Moines area and want to connect with Katherine, we'll put links to all the ways to do that in the show notes. And thank you so much. Thank you to Connor and to Remi. Give them shout outs and love from us.
Your sister for watching Remi right now.
We appreciate her.
Shout out to Lacey. Yeah. She sounded amazing and awesome. Just
all of the players in this cast. It's amazing. Again, thank you, Katherine. You're awesome.
Thank you guys. It was awesome and thank you for this conversation for other people. It was so helpful for me during my pregnancy and to a lot of other women and families.
Quick note about the Doing It at Home podcast. Matthew and I are not doctors or medical professionals, and nothing we say should be taken as medical advice or opinion. If you have medical or health-related questions, please take them to a trained professional. We're here simply to entertain you with stories and conversations about pregnancy, birth, and parenthood.